Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. I'm your host, Kevin James, and with me are my co-hosts, Sarah Dunaway. Sarah.
Hello.
And Hunter Markham. Hunter.
I'm here. I'm alive. It's been a few weeks since we recorded because...
Yeah, peek behind the curtain time. Everything was terrible for 3 weeks. Up here in Portland, we had massive wildfires that almost forced us to evacuate, and our air quality was the worst in the world for about a week and a half. And right as we were recovering from that, Hunter, your family suffered a personal tragedy, and you took some time off to help them with that.
And now, after a few weeks away, we are back watching Wynonna Earp, decompressing from all the crazy stuff, and we just get to talk shit on TV shows, so...
Yeah,
this
so
feels
we're
good.
discussing Season 1, Episode 12, House of Memories.
Oh, okay. Well, now that I've seen the episode, that title makes sense in retrospect.
Yeah, kind of does.
I had just assumed it was like House of Flying Daggers, but with memories. Boba's just like throwing out short-term and long-term memories left and right.
This episode really hammered home some things that you guys were both saying last time we recorded that I think I was too lenient on. Because both of you were like, Willa's character is all over the map and nothing makes sense about her. And boy howdy, you were right.
She sucks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just savoring the I was right part of that speech.
I was trying to be so kind and trying to be like, this is gonna pan out, there's a plan behind this. And then throughout this episode I went through whiplash as this woman goes from I'm traumatized to I'm a bitch and I hate everyone to let's just have fun and drink champagne. And that's probably in like 1 minute of screen time.
Yeah, that sounds right. She has a more weird mannerisms that would have made more sense last episode to have introduced. Like, we see more of the cult brainwashing where she's weird about homosexuals and she thinks coconut oil is an acceptable salve for wounds.
Yeah, like she's kind of an anti-vaxxer, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
She refers to Waverly as a gay.
Yes, and there was a pause when she's like, I didn't know you were a, and I was just cringing like, there's a lot of words she could use here. And when she finished with a gay, I'm like, not great, but better than what I thought was going to happen.
That's like polite golf applause. Like, yes, that was a lower scoring insult than you could have used. 4 out of 10.
It could have gone worse. And the opening scene of this episode has Wynonna and Willa torturing this revenant dude who we saw from an earlier episode was bound up in a chair for Doll's personal beating the shit out of time. I love this opening because Wynonna's asking these hard-hitting questions like, who attacked us at the farm? Who sent the death squad in to kill us? And then Willa steps in like, I don't know who I am! Where are my memories? I cracked up instantly. Why can't I remember anything?
Which shelf did I leave my car keys on?
Beginning of Zoolander. Who am I? I don't know.
The other thing that was great about this scene is Willa quickly executes the guy because he doesn't have any useful answers. And we've gone through this on the stress before, but Wynonna's like, whoa, that was the wrong reason to execute this demon. Like, he wasn't ours to have. Are you sure, Wynonna? I feel like the Revenants are quite literally yours to deal with.
Like, yeah, that's the whole thing what the Air's supposed to do, is kill all the Revenants. So, not the worst thing. And Wynonna's missed shoot first, ask questions later, so she's really the pot calling the kettle black here.
Yeah, it's one thing if she's like, I promised that one to Dolls, I wish you hadn't. But, like, the way it's framed is more like, wow, Willa has really crossed a line here, when I'm not sure that's true.
No, it was not a line that Wynonna hasn't crossed at least a half dozen times in this series. The other thing, I really want to bookmark these points. This show loves to have every male character just say sexual harassment-y dialogue.
Yes.
So it's getting to the point where I think there's just one male character who just puts on a different mask, because this guy, right before they execute him, is saying something like, "Oh, I love girl-on-girl action," or like, "You guys are arguing, that's hot." And really, that's tip of the iceberg, even for this episode.
Yeah, it feels like the way they kind of introduce, like, oh, you're not going to like this guy, or this is a bad guy, is just that a guy walks in and immediately calls the first woman he sees a whore.
And
That's their go-to.
You're not wrong. Like, that's a pretty solid way to make me hate a character,
Yes.
but you need a few more tools in that toolbox.
That's the only thing that they go to. There's never any other element to hate someone. It's always just, oh, they make a sexual comment to Wynonna, so you know they're a creep. It's never, oh, he just tossed a puppy into the middle of traffic or something else that clearly communicates this guy's evil.
And to be clear, I mean, someone makes a comment like that, I assume they're evil.
Yes.
That works, but, you know, let's mix it up a little bit.
There's more to evil than 1950s workplace conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not every vampire is like, Buffy, you're a
I need
whore.
a fucking timer for how deep we get into an episode before the Buffy references hit. This might be a new record.
It just felt appropriate. Cause yeah, like, there are various ways they make the various demons and vampires be awful, and they're not just all name callers.
Yes. It's weird when they're just clipping dialogue from Mad Men scripts and inserting it into Revenant's mouths and just, alright, that's code for this guy's really bad. And it could be because all of these people are from the 1800s, and Special Deputy Dawes is walking around. Being an African American, they could say something bad to him because they're all racist ass motherfuckers who are pretty much mostly white.
It really feels like they would. They are also in rural Canada. Like, there's just so many reasons why that would come up, like, realistically.
Slednecks
My guess
are a real
is
thing.
that's a bridge too far for the writing team. Like, oh, that makes us uncomfortable. But yeah, it would make a lot of sense.
It would make too much sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But wait, what the hell happens after this? I was so caught up in this torture scene.
The hypnotism scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. I was caught up in the moment where Willa at one point just screams, "Earp!"
I don't want to be too mean to Willa's actress here, but on the other hand, I do.
Yes. I have several notes about her. I kind of went hard in the paint, to quote Waka Flocka Flame, on this one with her, because she burned every bridge and destroyed my goodwill to her because I wanted to give her a chance. As an actress. Not just a character. As an actress, she also really... There were some just bad deliveries of lines.
Yeah. It's so interesting because... So, Sarah has made me watch Grey's Anatomy. It's pretty good. I'm, like, 15 years behind the cultural relevancy curve, but there's one character, a female doctor, Christina Yang, played by Sandra Oh, and, like, in any other show, this doctor would be seen as, like, such a bitchy mean girl, but it's so well acted, she immediately becomes your favorite character, like, the second she first comes on screen. And it's such impressive acting that coming from that to back to Willa, it was such a slap in the face. Like, oh, here's a really complicated character who you normally wouldn't sympathize with, who immediately gets your respect just because of how well acted she is, to here's someone who's been an abuse victim and was imprisoned by a cult, and it's really hard to sympathize with her because she's just not well acted.
No. And I haven't seen Grey's Anatomy, so I can't weigh in. All I could think was that a Revenant line that the writers of Wynonna Earp can take is one of them turns to Wynonna and says, "I'd like to graze your anatomy."
Sure would. In this scene, Kevin called it a good sweater scene.
Yes, I have fashion notes this time. Are you
Yeah.
surprised, Hunter?
So I commented how much I liked Wynonna's sweater, and she's wearing it most of this episode. It looks very cozy, but it also has a really nice pattern on it. I think it's very cute. I want it. And then Dolls was also wearing a very cozy looking green turtleneck, and both of us agreed we would wear either sweater.
Oh yeah, so Wynonna's is like the cream one with a black design, and Doll's is the green one that has the tactical cool shoulder patches.
Yeah. Great sweaters.
Costuming, you guys have done really well so far this episode.
And very appropriate. Like, I was waiting for them to, dress Canadianly, and now they are, finally.
But when you say that, all I can picture is either Canadian tuxedo with full denim, or just like flannel with a matching flannel cap with ear flaps.
Or just like a Mountie.
Yeah.
Just the amount of short shorts and tank tops we had for so long really threw me off.
Oh, what about when Doll's busts on Wynonna's wardrobe later on and calls out the crop tops?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's not wrong.
What's the line where he says something, because there's a formal event later in this episode, and he says, you can't show up in one of your baby tees in your, quote, good jeans. And I was just like, man, like he just dragged her. That's some fucking Project Runway ass shit up there.
And what great character development for Dolls that now we know he's a fashion snob. I want to imagine that just like sometimes when Wynonna comes in late, he's just like perusing Vogue and goes, that's 2 years out of date.
Those shoes don't actually match. How dare you?
Excuse me, those are winter colors and it is late autumn.
Oh, that would be incredible. Dolls has really just become a sweetheart too, where he first is giving her helpful fashion advice, and then he's saying things like, you've come such a long way, I wouldn't want to fight with anyone else at my side. Which is a huge turnaround from the Dolls, who pretty much just grunted and motioned before. So I
never smiled.
Yes.
Although I did, that line, I was like, well, yeah, I would also not want to fight beside anyone but the girl with the gun who can actually kill the demons. Like, she's the top pick. I feel like she would be anyone's top pick. That feels obvious.
Yes, yeah. The Revenant killing draft, you pick the Earp heir.
I think you'd pick the Earp heir right away.
Oh, all right. Where were we? I have something about Willa and coconut oil.
Yes, we can kind of skip over the hypnotism scene because that just like kind of sets up that Willa has repressed memories.
Which we knew.
And go to Waverly is being treated by Officer Nicole, and Willa kind of shoos Nicole off and is like, how dare you put what looked like iodine or some other kind of like antibacterial spray on my sister. Don't you know we have coconut cream?
Yeah, she's like, Neosporin, that's a poison.
There's also a very hot makeout scene in the barn. Very much appreciated that. Finally, two characters have chemistry, and I'm just really pleased that we finally got there.
Yes, this is where Waverly and Nicole are making out in the barn, and that's where we have the beautiful line when Willa walks in, and it's just like, didn't know you were the gay. And then Willa instantly goes into psycho mode, where she's like, oh, Wynonna doesn't know. I bet she'd be really pissed if she found out from someone other than you. So, what's this girl's deal, and why is she just so goddamn mean to everyone?
I don't know, though we get like a quick little moment where Waverly kind of implies it's always been this way. Because she says like, wow, this is just like the time you made me walk across the top of the barn, or you tell Dad I used his shaving razor or something. I forget what the actual reason is.
Well, yeah, but that I was kind of like, kids are freaking weird, especially siblings. Like, I don't know that we can draw a ton of conclusions from that, but we could certainly draw conclusions from now and understand that Willa is terrible.
Yeah. And we get a little more of a revelation about Waverly being neglected by their dad, because like I think it was in like episode 2 or 3, her height wasn't recorded on the height wall, and now we learned that apparently her dad didn't even know when her birthday was, because he was paying all of his attention to Willa.
Yeah, because I guess she's the heir, so she matters more. Waverly got short shrift, and she has some buried issues with that.
It's really tough to imagine Willa being someone's favorite over Waverly, though.
Yeah, Willa is...
Even in childhood, I can't fathom it.
Willa is thoroughly unpleasant.
Well, the question I had, which we've kind of discussed before, is Wynonna's given no indication that she was neglected by their father. So, is this something that happened just to Waverly? And does that kind of play into our theorizing that maybe Waverly's not...
A real Earp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I think that has to be the case because, come on, they've hammered this nail a number of times, enough to make us suspicious. So I think there has to be a revelation tied to that. I don't know how Waverly wouldn't remember being adopted unless she was a wee little baby. And in that case, why would her dad not give a shit about her and not mark her height on stuff? I don't know. But I'm still going with she's not a real Earp.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm leaning too.
And, you mentioned straight razors. We get a truly baffling scene in Bobo's Bar and Grill. I guess I think it was all just clearly a reference to Herman Melville's short story Benito Cereno, where we have a straight razor scene.
That's what our listeners come to Gritty Reboot for. The Herman Melville short story references.
I mean, I could go further in depth, but I'd prefer not to.
We all would.
Bartleby the Scrivener? Not a Melville crowd?
I'd prefer not to.
He's a tough read. But can someone shed light on this? Because Bobo and Judge Kreiderman are getting straight razor dry shaved, which seems like a recipe for razor burn. And then we cut to, there was some other dude with a straight razor off screen the whole time, slicing some woman's face off? Some woman we've never seen? Who was this?
This gets to one of my big pet peeves in this episode. This episode goes really hard on the old cinematic trope of like, if it's not on screen, no one can see it until the camera sees it in ways that just makes zero sense.
Oh yeah, I have a note on that too. I'm guessing you probably have the same one. But yeah, what was the deal with this woman being cut up by some dude just off screen and then it's revealed to us? We never even really see her face. We just see from a distance like a bloody, disfigured face, and then she topples over dead. Judge Kreiderman looks very distressed. I don't know if it's like his wife, his sister, a dear friend from childhood. We're never given the answer.
So are you ready for this? Because it took me some time, but I've untangled it.
Oh, please. I've been sitting here confused.
Enlighten us, because I was completely lost.
The Revenant with the razor is named Big Bubba.
Of course.
Continuing our grand tradition of underwhelming villain names. He is working on a poison that drives people homicidally crazy for Bobo.
That part.
And so, in that scene, he had just tested it for the first time on that woman, something we're not supposed to realize until the scene where he confesses this to Doc Holliday, and then uses the perfected serum on some random naked guy in a plexiglass box.
Oh, okay. I did not ever get that he had used it on the woman.
Yes, it was all very confusing. I read through several recaps to try and figure out what was happening.
I was fixated on another stunning line from our arch-villain, where this is a direct quote from the man himself. That is a Bobo no-no.
I loved that one. I laughed out loud.
That
and definitely repeated, Bobo no-no.
Bobo no-no. That sounds like something you'd say to your dog after it piddles in the house.
Yes.
Exactly.
But I mean, I'm actually all in on Bobo as a villain now because he does one of the evilest things I've ever seen any villain do in fiction. He drank beer through a straw.
Deeply upsetting to me.
Okay, has anyone done that? It seems like it should be illegal. Have either of you ever tried that? Because even I haven't, and I've lived a depraved lifestyle.
I just don't use straws in general. I've always hated them.
Yeah, he's just going to destroy the ecosystem. A sea turtle's going to get that jam through its nostrils and die. He just has his Cantonese worker who he treats like a servant. And I think this is the casual racism in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, feed him beer from a beer stein, but sip it through a bright green straw. A bendy straw. This is a villain for the ages.
Well, is this the same? Like, I don't know why. Where does this Cantonese dude plot? We haven't had any explanation yet.
Yeah, like, I get there were tons of, like, Chinese workers working on, like, the transcontinental railroads. Like, sure, there would be, like, a Cantonese guy there who Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp may have killed and became a revenant, but, like, I need to know this guy's deal. Like, what's his relationship to Bobo?
Is he a revenant? Like, does he work for Bobo? We don't really know.
He could just be a Cantonese guy who emigrated to Canada within the last 3 years.
Right.
Complete mortal, and he's just like, Bobo's pretty good boss. I get benefits.
Very enterprising.
I
get
applied
PTO.
for a personal assistant position with the Bobo Corporation.
It's anyone's guess at this point. The show has enlightened us absolutely 0%.
Then we get to see how Bobo is doing as a proprietor of a bar when Kreiderman blows his brains out and his blood spatters all over all of the glasses. I just feel like evil revenants shouldn't own bars, and I'm willing to stand by that.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to hang out in a bar where someone recently committed suicide with a handgun and half the glasses in the place were splattered with their blood.
Right.
That's what gives it its charm, though.
If that had happened 100 years ago, I'm completely in. Just to be clear. But, like, yesterday, no thank you.
And I don't trust Bobo's attention to sanitary measures because he probably isn't even aware of microorganisms. Since he was raised in the 1800s, I just feel like that's a good way to get hepatitis.
He's still skeptical about antibacterial soap. Like, he's like, no, you need a healthy coat of musk to protect you from the, what is it, the humors or the ether?
The humors, yes. The bad air.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's moved on to coconut oil as a cure-all. We do get another introduction of a bad guy, and I'll give you one guess of how we know he's a bad guy.
I want to say he just gives a really compelling villain monologue about the ways in which he disagrees with the direction society has gone and how he wants to bring it into, you know, a different kind of philosophical alignment. That's my guess.
Okay, checking my notes. He turns to Wynonna and says, I would like to see you with your panties off, but you can't go into
so
the bar.
close.
And why couldn't
My guess is like right there.
Yeah, really close. I mean, could have gone either way. I'm sure they had a debate about it in the writer's room. I don't know why they didn't have a guy turn to her at one point and say, I sure would like to see you in a tasteful gown when I pick you up to go to my sister's wedding, which is happening next month, but fortunately I can't let you into this bar. And then you're kind of like, well, he's a bad guy, but he seems like he's kind of sweet. I want complicated characters. And then Peacemaker doesn't work for Wynonna. That's the big thing that happens when they go into this bar and start cracking skulls. She can't kill a revenant.
Oh yeah, they're fighting like Hell's Angels kind of gang because it's like an evil biker gang. Yes, the
Machetes?
Betties.
Black Betties. I don't know.
Huge fans of Ram Jam.
Whoa.
This recap just says the Betties, so I'm sticking with the Betties.
Oh, I thought they were saying machetes the whole time because I was like, yeah, that's what you mean.
I think there were also machetes involved. Like, the Betties use machetes.
Oh, yeah. Black Betty
Sure.
with the machete.
I mean, their real hallmark, though, is they just, like, dig their fingernails into their palms so hard.
Their epic gang war with the Veronicas is
they're just huge Riverdale fans. They've read all the Betty and Veronica, the spin-off from Archie Comics. Oh, I guess the tie-in is the people who came to the Earp estate last time to try and murder them were A, ex-Army Rangers, and B, members of the Betty Machete crew. So they had a lot of really conflicting, overlapping tattoos that dolls deciphered and said, I'm really glad that these tattoos identify them exactly.
Yeah, and apparently they were hired by Kreiderman, so I think we knew that, but it's been long enough that I can't really remember.
This gets me to this thing that I started thinking about. Gang tattoos seem like a very poor idea. Because
They really are.
like, you've got a gang tattoo. Whenever you get arrested, it's like, oh yeah, you're clearly from the Bettys or Aryan Nation or something. It just seems like you're asking to get in trouble with those. And I'm all for tattoos.
Yeah, we actually had a thing here recently where there was a guy that right-wingers were saying was definitely not a Proud Boy. I can't believe you're saying that. But the guy had a giant Proud Boys tattoo on his arm. So that was not super convincing.
That portrait of Gavin McInnes that he has on his entire back, he just really likes Vice.com.
Who doesn't have that, am I right? It's fine.
Look, it may look like I have a swastika carved into my forehead, but that's just because I did this in the mirror. It was meant to be the 4 L's of Hinduism, you know?
Gee, I mean, gang tattoos just don't seem like they're good for a criminal enterprise. I'm just throwing that out there to any criminals listening. I think it's better if you go undercover, don't tattoo your affiliation. There's a lot better chance of you getting away with crimes.
I mean,
or do it
really?
tastefully in like a hidden spot. Like go with like branding, like the Nexium cult. Like put it like, you know, right on your vagina. That does it. Like you have to really go looking.
Gritty Reboot. We endorse branding your vagina.
I
Love sex cults, so good.
I feel like a really clever use of like tattooing would be like, all right, so I'm gonna go on a suicide mission, but first I'm gonna get a tattoo of like our rival gang, so like people assume they did it.
See, that's thinking next level. But wait,
Yeah,
this
that's
cult,
good.
did they really brand their vaginas, or is there just branding involved?
I mean, it's it's right above the labia. It's like right on the pelvic area.
Oh,
Yes,
it's tasteful.
it's and it has so it's a symbol that once you look closely, you realize it's the head cult person's initials, Keith Rainier, and then also Allison Mack, who was his second in command.
From Smallville.
Yeah.
Whatever character. She was the blonde one.
Don't sing the theme song. Don't sing the theme song.
Somebody said.
By like Remy whatever.
Remy Zero.
We went off on a
Anyway.
tangent. Blacklight tattoo
Getting-
for your gang tattoo. That way you can only see it under a blacklight. Final word on gang tattoos. I like Kevin's idea the best. Frame
Yeah,
the
so
other
that's
gang.
a really good one. But if you're gonna go go hidden, go like secret location, blacklight. These are all great ideas, and I think more gangs should pay attention to that.
Getting back to the plot, they do uncover that Bobo will be hosting a party later that night, and they decide to crash it. Riveting plotting here.
Why couldn't they have used the poker spectacular from the last episode and used that as a thing of everyone's getting together for this event rather than he's throwing a small soiree in an old house that used to be a hotel?
Wow, good memory on the poker spectacular. I completely forgot that.
I know it's been 3 weeks. But
I
mean,
think of nothing but the poker spectacular.
they forgot about it even like mid-episode, so I feel pretty justified in having also forgotten about it.
yes, you and the writers were on the same wavelength. I was just really caught up in Poker Spectacular because Rounders is one of my favorite movies of all time.
You still have a chip on your shoulder about it.
Yes, I do. I fully endorse the film Rounders. Gritty Reboot is about rounders and vagina brands. That's it. Things we like.
It sounds like we're endorsing like a particular shape of vagina brand. Like we want rounder vagina brand. This one's a little too square.
Oh my god. So, yeah, Bobo's hosting a party. He says he wants it at this old hotel. And you know how old hotels in a town are just kind of like a bed and breakfast, where it's a rather large house, maybe has 6 or 7 bedrooms, but he invites the whole town of Purgatory, which looks like it has a lowball figure a couple thousand people based on the fact that there's a downtown strip in the town and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it can support one very large bar, Bobo's. I don't see how you're going to get 2,000 plus people into one house for this master plan.
It's a really nice house, though.
Oh, yeah. No complaints on the house. I just think he needed a bigger venue. And this is why I would have said Poker Spectacular on the giant 300-foot train car that we also saw in the last episode. And that would have been super cool. But no one listens to me because the show was filmed like 2 years ago.
I also was a little disappointed we weren't doing a masquerade ball because while it is a ridiculous premise and very cliched in TV shows, and I've never been invited to a masquerade ball in my life, I do think it's a fun little trope.
Oh, yeah. I went a full Eyes Wide Shut key party, but I can't.
Can't always get what we want, you know?
No one's listening to this guy. And Judge Kreiderman, who dies, as we discussed, I like to think that, like the actor Judge Reinhold, Judge Kreiderman is just his name. That was all I started thinking about.
His full name is Judgery.
Yes. And whenever Dolls and Wynonna go and crack skulls and Peacemaker doesn't work for Wynonna, they also recover the money that Judge Kreiderman paid these people to put a hit to go and execute Dolls.
Yes.
And I wanted them to be like, we don't have the money anymore. You know, Wynonna's like, oh, you guys spent it all on drugs and prostitutes. Actually, we put it in a trust fund for our children to pay for college tuition. We're in a gang. We have a short life expectancy. We want to provide for our families in case anything goes wrong, such as you guys killing us. But no, they just had cash laying around. And Doll says they're going to donate it to charity. I don't know. If there's blood money paid to kill me and I go and retrieve it, I feel like I'm entitled to that.
Like, at least, like, a couple $100 of it, right?
Yes! I went through a lot of emotional trauma when they shot tear gas into my home and tried to kill me with automatic weapons.
Look, I'm just taking enough for, like, 10 weeks of therapy. Just, like, that'll help me, okay?
Yeah. you need, Canada, universal healthcare, maybe they don't have to pay for therapy.
Yeah, it's like $14.
Yes. We have a weird side plot that jumps location all over the place where Waverly and Willa go from Waverly being like, you were always a fucking turd to me when I was a kid, to we're best friends and we're hugging. And I think this goes to another scene, like you mentioned, Kevin, where people show up out of nowhere and are only revealed when the camera decides that it's time to show them.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
the plane of teleportation.
I was like, are they freaking prairie dogs? Is this like a meerkat situation? Like, what is happening? Because they're just like popping up out of absolutely nowhere and there's nothing around. It's just planes.
Yes, Willa is hanging out by the fence at, like, the far end of the Earp property. Miles of open country around her. And then Bobo just strolls in a frame and Willa's like, oh, where'd you come from?
Like, there's no forest around there. There's no houses. There's absolutely nothing except a fence and a field.
And then after they've been talking for, like, 2 seconds, Waverly pops up behind them and shoots Bobo and says, you better get the hell out of here.
Makes absolutely no sense.
How would they not see a woman walking across? There's 6 acres of open prairie in any direction. The nearest trees are a half mile. They don't see Waverly walking towards them with a lever-action Winchester rifle and say, hey, Waverly. Nope. Don't notice her until she shoots the gun.
There's nothing else to look at. Like, I don't know how they wouldn't see her.
It's completely stupid. And just for effect of, look at this twist that's happening in this scene. Our characters have no peripheral vision.
Yeah. The point of this scene, though, is, like, we've been getting hints that there's, like, some kind of weird origami history with Willa and Bobo, and what we learn is the Stone Witch and Bobo made a pact to abduct Willa using the Seven, and Willa's father was in on it to make sure that his daughters wouldn't be, like, the targets of these revenants. But then the revenants kind of reneged on their deal and took Willa and did things to her and kidnapped her, I guess?
Okay, I slowly pieced this together. My recap, and this could be completely off base, was we've heard talk about Wynonna's dad and Bobo having a deal. And we find out the only way that the Revenants can leave the Ghost River Triangle is if the Earp heir leads them out. And I think the thing
and that makes them the lead.
Yes. So I think Wynonna's papa was saying, I will lead you guys out of the Ghost River Triangle on the winter solstice just as so long as you let my children be and let my family live. And then the Revenants were kind of like, he might pull a fast one and pull out of this deal. Let's kidnap Willa to make sure that he goes along with this and doesn't back out. And that's when everything went wrong, and it ended up with Wynonna's dad getting dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much as I was able to get. This show didn't explain it that clearly.
Well, and then also, all Willa had to read in the treehouse was Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. So she just got really into origami.
That was really strange, too, where there's a massive house in a lone tree in the middle of the prairie no one else has ever apparently seen or come across. And Willa was kidnapped and living there for apparently years.
It's a really big treehouse.
It's
and,
really big.
Just really, really feels like someone would have come across it at some point. Like, kids would have come across it and, you know... As a kid who roamed around in the forest a lot, I would have explored that immediately.
Waverly also uses poor gun safety as they trot around looking for this treehouse because she's walking around with her finger on the trigger of her rifle and the barrel pointed up, which is super dangerous and not what you do with a gun. So the whole time I was just like, did no one on set try and teach her just to keep everyone safe? There's got to be a firearms expert around because they're using guns all the time. That's neither here nor there. You know what plot we haven't touched on at all, and I know you guys...
And what we're not going to?
Everyone's favorite character, Doc Holliday.
There was a point, I think it's like earlier in the episode, where they find his abandoned car, and Wynonna's like, he had just learned to drive. And I was like, okay, no one cares. Good try, though. Good try.
He's just hanging out with the meth head guy who's cooking up the evil homicide poison deal. And that guy's just throwing knives at him, and they're chatting for most of the episode. The evil dude is doing a really bad Heath Ledger Joker impression.
But this does lead us into the party. And this is, like, another great costuming scene. Like, the fashion in this scene is so on point. There's, like, arm-length black leather gloves, skin-tight coats with fur trim, and that's just Bobo's outfit.
he really went all out.
The dresses are beautiful. I have no idea where they all found formal gowns at the last minute in this town, but okay, great.
Because Doll's got a dress for Wynonna right before he drags her current wardrobe, and she says, no, I'm not wearing that, and I expected her to show up wearing the tuxedo from the Jackie Chan Jennifer Love Hewitt film, The Tuxedo. I don't know why that came to mind.
Man, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
That is a reference that I was just like, no one's seen this movie.
Wow, I had no idea that was going to be the key to making you understand who Jennifer Love Hewitt was.
That is, if it isn't Ghost Whisperer, then it's The Tuxedo. That's what Jennifer Love Hewitt's best known for.
Never seen it. I only watch real cinema, like The Tuxedo.
The other thing, this is what I was thinking about Willa, because she also, at this party, goes completely bonkers. At first, she's walking around the party with Waverly, saying stuff like, oh, I just want to sip champagne and have a great time. I don't care what the Revenants are planning. And then a minute later, when Wynonna sneaks in with Peacemaker, she's like, at least I have this gun. she's really all over the place, and her actress, when she tries to be a badass, her voice is kind of naturally soft, and when she goes into I'm gonna sound hardcore, it gets strident, and it seems, I don't know, it doesn't scream intimidating to me.
Yeah, this feels mean to say, but it comes across more as petulant.
Mm-hmm.
She seems like the type of girl who you break up with her, and then she shows up at your place on 6 a.m. while you're still asleep, and then your roommate is up early because he's on the crew team and he lets her in, and then you wake up at 6 a.m. with this crazy girl in your bedroom screaming at you. Not that that's ever happened to me in that exact situation.
Look, Hunter, I appreciate this, but you gotta stop cribbing scenes from the tuxedo.
Oh! Speaking of, Champ is at the party, and he's wearing a tuxedo t-shirt, which is a reference to the Jackie Chan Jennifer Love Hewitt movie, The Tuxedo T-shirt.
He then proceeds to say that Waverly and Nicole are disgusting, which feels extremely out of character for him. He feels like exactly the kind of guy who would be like, huh, that's really hot. Can I watch?
Yeah, if there was any guy who was going to make a girl-on-girl joke in this show, it should have been Champ. But because he starts going into stuff like, you guys are together, that's gross. And being super homophobic. First of all, Champ Monks are officially disbanded. I have removed all support from Champ. I didn't expect this from him, but I can't say anything good about him now because the show turned him into a really evil redneck piece of shit.
It's so weird. Like, this show just sometimes doesn't seem to fully understand its own characters. And, like, there's a part of me that's like, is this, like, intentionally how they intend him to always be? Or is this, like, the first hint that, like, he's had too much of that homicidal poison, and so, like, craziness is coming out of him? Because, like Sarah said, he really does seem like the type to just be a creep about this and not an asshole about it, if that makes sense.
I mean, being a creep is kind of being an asshole about it, but it's not as bad, I guess.
Yes. It's
maybe
more forgivable if he was just like, oh, you two are together? That's pretty fucking hot. Like, that's, really matches the stuff in my search history.
I don't even know about forgivable, just like, that just seems like the type of guy he is.
That just fits with what we see.
It's not great, but it's sort of like, he's really immature and fucking stupid. And then when you take that to the next level where he's just like, I think people who are gay should go to hell. Where did this come from, dude? Like, you've got some depth in you, and it ain't good.
It's kind of like if, like, Hannibal Lecter just randomly became a rapist. It's not like he wasn't already bad and evil, but that still just doesn't quite seem right with, like, the type of bad and evil he was.
It doesn't fit the character. Much like Willa's walking around this party, and she's like, let's enjoy the bubbly. And then she says, I've never gone out to a party or anything. So I don't even know how she knows slang terms for champagne.
Everyone in this fucking scene calls it the bubbly.
Yes.
It's so...
really
it's
weird.
so irritating.
It's really annoying. And the weird thing is, the previous scene, she's just like, I had all of my memories erased by a witch. And she seems super distraught. Cut to the next scene, she's like, ooh, like champagne from a real friends. A real pain of a sham friends. That's a quote from Dickie Roberts, former child star, starring David Spade. Which is the only movie that they had in the treehouse, and I had to watch it over and over.
Just Origami and Dickie Roberts.
Yes, just nothing but David Spade movies. Bobo is a huge fan. This is the episode where I only make references to super shitty movies, which makes it just like every other episode where I reference a film.
I can't wait for you to slip in the Tooth Fairy reference. The classic The Rock movie.
I have not seen that one. I imagine it being on par with The Pacifier starring Vin Diesel in that it's a great film. And the Academy really slipped up by not rewarding it. I will watch any movie starring Lorelai Gilmore or Lauren Graham.
Fair.
Yeah, it's completely fair.
But yeah, so this is when Bobo comes in and announces, by the way, I poisoned all of the champagne. Please kill Wynonna Earp if you want the antidote.
Wait, did we already discuss Dells and Wynonna making out?
Oh, holy shit.
Oh, no, we did not.
They make out.
This is the commentary you come for. So should we discuss that they made out? They made out.
And then Doc walks in right in the right time and sees it. I don't really care about any of that, but it was a plot thing that occurred.
Hunter, going off of what you said, like, these revenants seem like they should be more racist. I made a joke along those lines to Sarah when we were watching that episode. I was like, Doc really feels like he should be walking and be like, Wynonna, don't you know you should not be kissing a colored?
That was my exact note, I think, right here. Yeah, to follow Champ's homophobia, Doc Holliday is about to have some very 19th century views on interracial relationships.
But no, he's just like,
He just takes off his hat and he's like, there's a poison in the air.
Look, Doc had a lot of time to contemplate race relations when he was in that well, and he came to some very progressive views over that 100 and some years.
Yeah, the fact that everyone gets a pass on that stuff, when I think it could actually be kind of compelling for dolls to be fighting these guys, and every so often there's some sort of, doesn't have to be overt, but some little comment about race, and then we see him getting personally invested and really taking a disliking to them. I think it would have been cool for his character.
Absolutely.
I mean, it wouldn't be insane for some of these guys to have, like, been associated with or fought for or known someone who fought for the Confederacy.
We could have definitely had that, and even if it was small stuff, it would be good context in the show. They decided to skirt that for whatever reasons. Maybe they didn't want to wade into those waters, but I think they should have. Instead, we have Doc Holliday just looking hurt, I guess. He doesn't emote that much.
His mustache droops a little.
But Wynonna moved on quickly. She was like, Doc's probably dead. And I think Dolls is an upgrade, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least in fashion.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you're surrounded by Doc Holliday's stupid hats and Bobo's latex elbow-length gloves, as he then Doll's wearing just a classic tuxedo. I'm not going to go there with the reference. Looks a lot better in comparison. The best thing is, Bobo does the Iceman tooth click when he's explaining to the party, like, good news is there's an antidote. Bad news is everyone who drinks champagne is poisoned. And then he, like, literally clicks his teeth in someone's face, and her reaction is to squeeze her champagne glass so hard it shatters.
Yep. I mean, some props there do. That was like a fairly clever twist for like where this whole, how all these weird plots have been going. Because like, I was not making heads or tails of it. So when we finally got there, it's like, I poisoned you all already. It's like, okay, this tracks. I get it now.
Yeah, because Champ has been drinking like a fish the whole time, and he's the first one who starts puking up foam and bleeding from the nose because the poison's getting to him.
He's a big fan of Champ Pain.
God.
And it did cause him a lot of champagne, too. Rough time for him. So, the antidote apparently is something you'll only get from Bobo if you bring Wynonna Earp, dead or alive, to him. So, everyone runs away. And then Willa slips out to go have a little conversation with Bobo, which is where we discover that his name is actually Robert, which makes me wonder why we don't call him Bobo.
Or Robo.
Why wouldn't he go by Rob? That's so much better than Bobo. I mean, I get that you have pet names from your mom when you're really little, but at some point you make a decision. Like, I have a friend who most of the time I knew him went by Joey, but now he's a professional and he's changed it to address me as Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's gotta be a point in your life where you say, guys, I'm not Bobo anymore.
Especially when you've been alive for a little over 100 and some years.
But Willa and Bobo are a romantic thing because
I guess
one of them calls the other one baby when they meet out on the moonlit street, and he kisses her hand. But this guy hunches around. He always has his shoulders rounded and he's kind of prowling. He's not exactly cute. I don't think he's supposed to be. We've also seen him just flouncing around with numerous ladies of ill repute, so he's clearly not faithful. I don't know what she sees in him.
Also, deeply creepy that he kidnapped her as a child and they're somehow involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like any of this. The
Real
ramifications
Woody
are
Allen
really
vibe.
gross. Yeah.
I was going to go with Stockholm Syndrome, but what you said is way better.
Possibly because Woody Allen is real and Stockholm Syndrome is not.
Oh, it's not?
Well, I mean, it's a thing, but it's not it's not what people think it is. It's basically just like that in order to stay alive, it's advantageous to you to,
Play nice.
form some kind of a bond with your captor and like be nice to them sometimes, because that's how you don't get killed. It's not, but the person is pretty much always completely aware that like they suck and they want to get away.
Yeah.
Where you kind of are like, well, this person has me over a barrel here. I can't do much to fight back. I might as well play nice and try and pal around so they don't just decide to up and kill me one day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's survival strategy, not a mental disorder.
It's more
Right.
Julius Caesar hanging out with the pirates when he was a captive and like joking around telling them he was going to kill them all when he got out. Unless I'm in love with you because you kidnapped me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Niche Julius Caesar reference.
Yeah, I did not know that one. Good historical reference.
I had to balance out the amount of Jackie Chan movies I've talked about.
But yeah, so I guess in the next episode, we will learn more about this weird relationship and how it came about and see how Wynonna slips out of the murder party.
Oh yeah, this episode completely leaves us on a cliffhanger when Wynonna's being circled by a group of partygoers who are literally foaming at the mouth, and Bobo and Willa are walking down the street, and since she's the heir and the peacemaker only seems to work for her now, she can willingly lead him out of the Ghost River Triangle, and he can spread his brand of creepiness all over the globe. Season 2
Yep.
opens in Greece, where they're tracking down Bobo.
So I think the next episode is the season finale, right?
I think so.
Ooh.
Season 1, episode 13, I Walk the Line.
All right, they went with the Johnny Cash reference. Like, really, really barreling in there.
I personally would have gone with the Dewey Cox reference, Walk Hard.
Okay, no lie. Some of the music in that movie was really good.
The whole movie I think it's legitimately great. And the music is good, and the acting is fantastic because they made a great decision to let, I'm blanking on his name.
John C. Reilly?
Yes, John C. Reilly. Like, they gave him a real character, and some of those scenes are played very sincerely.
That's the kind of movie that we need.
I'll show it to you. It's on Netflix.
Oh,
Can't wait.
Is Sarah just looking at you?
Yeah.
Most of the movies y'all discuss on here, I have no idea. I mean, I know I've heard of them, but I certainly have not seen them.
You'd like Walk Hard, especially if you've ever seen any music biopic.
Yeah. I mean, I did watch Walk the Line,
Yeah.
so...
There are so many great moments where they're like, you know how there's like the scene like every music biopic where like the singer gets hooked on drugs?
Mhm.
They parody those really hard. Go away, Dewey. You don't want none of this. Well, what is it? It's marijuana. It's a very healthy, perfectly fine drug. Oh, well, it must be addictive, right? No, not addictive. There's no way it can hurt you. But you don't want any of this. Trust me.
There's some great scenes in that. But overall, Sarah, you are blessed that you have not seen all these terrible movies.
Yeah, there's a lot of these movies I won't force on you. Like, no offense, Hunter, we probably won't be watching the Tuxedo.
I won't be watching the Tuxedo.
Right, you're too busy watching the Tooth Fairy, catching up on the recommendation I gave you.
Oh yeah, I love The Rock.
But yeah, do we have any final thoughts on this episode?
I hate Willa. I really
Yeah.
dislike
Oh, yeah.
her, and I have from Jump Street when this episode started rolling. I don't care if she dies. I want her dead. There's no sort of complicated thing where, oh, like she's troubled and she needs help. I'm kind of just like fucking off her at this point. Let's get back to Wynonna being the heir and putting foot to ass.
This is kind of like a technical note, but I do not understand why the Peacemaker just suddenly stopped working. Like, it should have just never worked if Willa was alive this whole time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never explained. Because Willa was never dead. And there's even a thing when in the very opening scene when they're questioning the guy and Willa's screaming nonsense that he says, oh, a couple years back, we felt a surge as if there was a new heir, but no one showed up, so we kind of thought it was nothing. So that was Willa coming of age and becoming the heir. Wynonna never should have been able to wield Peacemaker. The fact that she has for the last couple episodes and then all of a sudden it stops working, I don't know how that makes any sense in the universe that has been established.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't so far to me at all.
All right, not to hit the Buffy notes too hard.
Keep hammering them.
So, I think I've mentioned before, at the end of season 1, Buffy dies, but they bring her back to life through basic CPR. But that activates the next girl in the Slayer line. So there is a moment in season 2 or 3 where, like, she is talking with her mom, and her mom's like, well, there's this new Slayer now. You could retire. You could have a normal life, and she could take over the duties you have. And, like, that's a more compelling thing. It's not that Buffy loses her powers, but she could voluntarily go back to the life she wants.
See?
And that seems like what they could have done here with Willa. Like, teased out, like, oh, Wynonna, you never really wanted to be this cop person. You could step back.
That would be more compelling, and we would have to dive into the character's psychology, and they would have to make a choice, or a situation arises that really torments them because either way they lose something important. And it'd be something like, oh, like if I stop doing this, then I won't get to hang out with this hot slab of man body dolls. But, like, also my whole life's a fucking mess where everyone's trying to kill me all the time. I don't know if they're making choices. It seems like sometimes they're slapping stuff together and just saying, oh, now Peacemaker doesn't work for Wynonna. Why? It makes this episode good.
Yeah, it seems like contrivances instead of plotting sometimes.
Besides Bobo saying, that's a Bobo no-no, should you have any other especially cringe lines, I'm just going to say anytime anyone called champagne bubbly, which happened 64,000 times, it felt like.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was like waiting for like that Colby Calais bubbly song to come on the speakers. Like, like, how far are we gonna go?
Now you're making references I don't know anything about.
Well, those are the 64,001 bad lines there were in this. I don't think there was anything else.
I didn't know you were a gay.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, from the cult perspective makes sense, except that then she calls champagne bubbly, so who knows? It's all very confusing, but either way,
am I allowed to make one final bad movie reference?
Please do.
Okay.
Like we could stop you.
I would have stopped, but you gave me a pass on this. Transporter 3, starring Jason Statham. So there's the lady love in Transporter 3 is this woman with a Russian accent. And when at first Jason Statham refuses her advances, she says the line, "Oh, you are the gay." Which me and my friend, who have watched those movies multiple times, got endless enjoyment out of.
I mean, Jason Statham is top gay. The gay.
So that's why I was all I could think of was that awful line from another awful movie. Because they really nearly hit it again. Right here.
It's bad. This show did not come out that long ago. I mean, maybe it's partly just like I always live in extremely leftist bubbles, so it just feels like a wild anachronism to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's partly just that, like, okay, we have that. We have sexism and homophobia, but we don't have any racism at all. Feels... It's so unrealistic.
Look, racism is solved, you guys. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and by that I mean absolutely not. Transporter 3 was 2008, so, you know, things still should have been solved somewhat more by then.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to sound crazy, but like even though there were a lot of like structural issues with this episode and it was hard to follow in parts, I still liked it overall, so I think I'm giving it 3 out of 5. Flaccid peacemakers.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, now that you say that, there was never a time in this episode where I was bored. And despite the fact that Willa's actress is about as good as the Transporter 3 leading lady, who was literally had never acted before that movie and was a hairdresser who I think was just dating the writer of the movie. So, think about that chain of events.
I can't think of anything else now.
How did Willa get this job? Neither here nor there. They should have cast someone else. But I will agree with a 3 out of 5 lesbian makeout scenes in the barn that Champ should have really enjoyed.
I'll go with 3 out of 5 poisoned glasses of bubbly.
Ooh. Wow, this is synergy.
Yeah. I'm surprised we're all on the same page about this. I thought you guys were going to be like, Kevin, you're crazy. You need to be meaner.
No.
3 weeks removed, we are still in sync.
Ba, 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 ba.
And as soon as I said that, I knew one of you was going to make an in sync reference.
And what you didn't know was that it was gonna be me.
My impulse was to stand up from my chair and throw it against the wall.
Not the wrong impulse.
All right. Is there any final notes before we wrap up?
Just the sign out.
All right. Thank you for listening to Gritty Reboot. Leave a review for the show. Hit us up on Twitter at Gritty Reboot Pod or email us at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. We will be back to discuss the final episode of Season 1 of Wynonna Earp, and we look forward to not seeing any of you because this is a purely audio format.